Admiral Kang Tae stood alone on the observation deck of the Soul's Fury. The stars stretched before him, like scattered diamonds on black cloth. He had served in the human defense fleet for 40 years. He had seen peace. He had maintained peace. And every single day of those 40 years, he had carried a secret that weighed on his soul like a stone. Humanity was not peaceful by nature. They had simply agreed to pretend 300 years ago, when human ships first met alien vessels in the outer reaches of the solar system. The galaxy had looked at Earth's history and recoiled in horror. The wars, the weapons, the sheer creativity humans showed when it came to ending life. The other species had fought conflicts, yes, but none of them had invented nuclear bombs. None of them had created chemical weapons that melted flesh from bone. None of them had designed diseases in laboratories to kill millions. The Galactic Accord had been clear. If humanity wanted to join the community of civilized species, they had to lock away their worst creations. No planet-killing weapons. No self-replicating machines. No biological agents designed to target specific species. No autonomous weapons that could kill without human command. Humanity had agreed. They smiled at alien diplomats. They signed treaties. They put their nightmares in deep vaults beneath mountains and oceans. And they waited. Lieutenant Yuna walked onto the observation deck. She was young, barely 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She served as the ship's communications officer, and she had a report that could not wait. "Admiral," she said, "we have received another complaint from the Veth Dominion." Tay did not turn from the window. "What do they want now?" "They claim our patrol ships entered their territory near the outer rim. They demand we withdraw and offer formal apology." The Veth had been pushing humanity for 2 years now. Small raids on colony ships, captured merchants, held for ransom. Mining vessels that disappeared near Veth space and were never seen again. Each time, humanity filed complaints through proper diplomatic channels. Each time, the Veth denied everything and demanded apologies for human aggression. They thought humans were soft. They thought 3 centuries of peace had made humanity weak. They had no idea what slept beneath the surface. "Send the standard response," Tay said. "Express our desire for continued peaceful relations. Remind them that our ships were in neutral space. Request a meeting to discuss the incident." Yuna hesitated. "Admiral, with respect, they have ignored every request for the past 18 months. They do not want to talk. They want to see how far they can push us." "I know. And why do we keep asking?" Tay finally turned to look at her. His face was tired, lined with years of service and secrets. "Because every peaceful response we send becomes evidence. Every diplomatic message we transmit becomes part of the record. When the time comes, when they finally push too far, no one in the galaxy will be able to say, 'We did not try.'" Yuna frowned. "You speak as if war is certain." "It is. The Veth have decided that humanity is prey. They have watched us follow rules for 300 years and concluded that we are harmless. They do not know what we locked away. They do not know what we can become." On the bridge below, the crew went about their duties. They were good soldiers, trained to defend human space with the approved weapons and tactics. Most of them had never heard of Project Hydra. They did not know about the Lazarus protocols, or the nightmare swarms, or the dozens of other horrors that waited in sealed vaults for the day. Humanity decided to stop being polite. Commander Yoon. Day served on the carrier Incheon, 3 systems away. He was a family man with a daughter named Sue who lived in Seoul. He called her every week through the quantum relay. Watching her grow from a child into a young woman studying medicine, he often told her that his job was to keep the peace so that people like her could build a better future. Captain Mina commanded the destroyer, Han River. She had joined the fleet because she believed in humanity's mission among the stars. She believed that humans could be better than their history. She had spent her career proving that humans could solve problems without violence, weapons. Officer Seok served under Captain Mina. He was quiet, serious, and very good at his job. He maintained the ship's weapon systems, keeping them ready, but hoping they would never be used. In his personal files, locked behind 17 security protocols, he kept copies of old weapons designs. Things from before the Accord. Things that could end wars in days rather than years. He had never shown them to anyone. He hoped he never would. Engineer Jiwoo worked on the science vessel, Dokdo. She studied alien technology and developed new defensive systems. She was curious and brilliant and completely unaware that her grandmother had helped design the Lazarus nanites before the Accord banned such things. The knowledge was still in the family archives, waiting. These were the humans who would face what was coming. Good people who had chosen peace, soldiers who followed rules, scientists who built rather than destroyed. They represented everything humanity had tried to become since joining the galactic community, but deep in their genes. Deep in the sealed vaults beneath Earth's surface, something else waited. Something old and terrible and very, very patient. On the Veth homeworld of Keth Prime, the High Commander looked at reports of human responses to their provocations. He saw a weakness. He saw a species that had forgotten how to fight. He saw opportunity. "They are afraid of us," he told his advisors. 300 years of soft living have made them cattle. It is time to show the galaxy that humans are not the threat everyone feared. It is time to put them in their proper place, his advisors agreed. Plans were drawn. Fleets were assembled. Agents were sent to steal access codes for Earth's defensive systems. They had no idea what they were about to wake up. In the darkness of space, Admiral Tay watched the stars and waited. He knew what was coming. He had known for 2 years. And when the day finally arrived, when humanity was forced to unlock its oldest and darkest secrets, he would not hesitate. Some monsters deserved to be unleashed. The attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning. Veth warships appeared in Earth's orbit at 6:47 a.m. Seoul time. They had used stolen access codes to slip past the outer defense stations. They had avoided every patrol. They had crossed half the solar system in complete silence, and they did not target military bases. The first plasma strikes hit Seoul. The second wave struck Vancouver. The third destroyed Cairo. In less than 3 hours, 12 million humans were dead. Not soldiers. Not warriors. Families eating breakfast. Children walking to school. Old people tending gardens. The Veth had chosen civilian targets on purpose. They wanted to send a message. Humanity received it. Commander Yoondae was on the bridge of the Incheon when the news arrived. He read the casualty reports with hands that did not shake. He saw Seoul listed among the destroyed cities. He thought of his daughter Sue, who had been studying at the medical university there. He thought of her smile, her laugh, the way she always said, "I love you, Father," at the end of every call. He did not cry. He did not scream. Something inside him simply went cold and still, like a lake freezing in winter. He looked at his crew, saw the same frozen stillness spreading through them as they read their own reports, learned their own losses. "Set course for Earth," he said. His voice was calm. Maximum speed. Across human space, the reaction was the same. Not grief. Not yet. Grief would come later, in quiet moments, in empty rooms, in dreams that would haunt survivors for generations. What came first was something older, something that had been sleeping in human hearts for 300 years. On the Han River, Captain Mina received the official communication from Earth Command. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Then she called her crew to the main deck. "The Galactic Accord has been dissolved," she announced. "As of 1 hour ago, all restrictions on human military operations have been lifted. High Command has authorized full response protocols." The crew was silent. They knew what this meant. They had been trained for standard warfare, yes, but they had also heard whispers, stories passed down from grandparents who remembered the days before the Accord. Tales of weapons that could eat planets. Machines that could think and kill on their own. Diseases designed in laboratories to hunt specific species across the galaxy. Weapons Officer COX stepped forward. "Captain, I have files. Old designs. Things that were sealed after the integration wars. With your permission, I would like to begin production. Mina looked at him for a long moment. She had spent her career believing in peace. She had dedicated her life to proving that humans could be better. Now she saw the faces of her crew tight with controlled rage and grief, and she made her choice. Do it, she said. Do all of it. On the Soul's Fury, Admiral Tay received a message from Earth. 3 words appeared on his screen. The final authorization code that he had waited his entire career to see. Chains are off. He smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had carried a heavy burden for 40 years and was finally allowed to set it down. Lieutenant Yuna, he called. Open a channel to all human vessels in the sector. Channel open, Admiral. This is Admiral Kang Tae of the Human Defense Fleet. As of this moment, all Accord restrictions are suspended. All sealed protocols are authorized. To our enemies who thought our kindness was weakness, I have one message. You wanted our attention? Now you have it. You unleashed hell on our people. We will show you what real hell looks like. He closed the channel and turned to his tactical officer. Begin preparations for Operation Nightmare. I want the Lazarus nanites ready for deployment within 48 hours. Across the fleet, old files were opened. Ancient machines were awakened. Scientists who had spent their careers on peaceful research suddenly found themselves working on projects their grandparents had sealed away in shame. The knowledge had never been lost. It had simply been waiting. Engineer Giwu received a data package from her family archives. Her grandmother's work? The Lazarus nanite self-replicating machines, small enough to slip through any filter, smart enough to recognize their targets, hungry enough to eat through starship hulls like acid through paper. She had never imagined she would be the one to build them again. Her hands shook as she began the work. She thought of the 12 million dead. She thought of friends and souls she would never see again. Her hands stopped shaking. On Keth Prime, the Veth High Commander celebrated his victory. His fleet had struck at humanity's heart and escaped without significant losses. He stood before his people and declared that the human threat was ended, that the galaxy would see how easily these so-called monsters could be beaten. He did not know that human ships were already moving. He did not know that weapons sealed for 3 centuries were being assembled. He did not know that every human in the galaxy had just received the same unspoken message. No more rules. No more restraint. No more pretending. Admiral Tay stood on his observation deck and watched the fleet form up around him. Destroyers and carriers and battleships, all carrying payloads that the Galactic Accord had made illegal. He felt no joy in what was coming. Only cold, certain purpose. They thought we were tame, he said quietly to Lieutenant Yuna. They thought 300 years of peace had bred the wolf out of us. They are about to learn that we were never tame. We were simply patient. The first human ships entered hyperspace, heading for Veth territory. Behind them, more ships followed, and more, and more. The Veth had wanted to show the galaxy that humans were weak. They were about to prove the opposite. The Veth forward fleet met the human response 3 days after the attack on Earth. They had expected retaliation. They had prepared for battle. They had positioned their ships in perfect defensive formation, confident in their superior numbers. They were not prepared for what came. The first sign of trouble was a strange reading on their sensors. Tiny objects, smaller than dust particles, drifting through space toward their position. The Veth sensors classified them as debris, perhaps remnants from a destroyed asteroid or the wreckage of an old ship. No threat. They were very wrong. The Lazarus nanites reached the Veth flagship at 0300 hours. They slipped through the ship's hull like water through sand. They found the metal and began to eat. They found organic matter and began to change it. Within 6 hours, the flagship was dying from the inside. Veth Commander Rel stood on his bridge and watched his crew scream. They clawed at their own skin, trying to tear out the things crawling beneath it. They watched their hands turn gray as the nanites rewrote their flesh into raw material for more nanites. The walls of the ship twisted and bubbled. The lights flickered and died. What is happening? Rel demanded into his communicator. What have the humans done to us? No one answered. The other ships in his fleet were experiencing the same horror. Across 100 vessels, 20,000 Veth soldiers died in ways their species had never imagined. On the science vessel Dokdo, engineer Jiwoo watched the data feeds. She had helped create the weapons that were killing those soldiers. She had loaded the nanite canisters herself. She had pressed the button that launched them into Veth space. She did not feel guilty. She remembered Seoul. She remembered the 12 million dead. The nanites are spreading faster than projected, she reported to Admiral Tay. Veth have no defense against them. Their entire forward fleet will be gone within 18 hours. The Admiral nodded. Good. Prepare the second wave. I want their shipyards next. The Veth High Command received reports of the disaster and did not believe them. Ships eaten from inside? Crews transformed into more of the enemy. Impossible. The humans were not capable of such weapons. Everyone knew that humans had given up their war technology. Everyone knew they were soft now. Then the reports kept coming. A Veth colony world went silent. When rescue ships arrive, they found the cities empty. Not destroyed empty. The buildings still stood. The vehicles still sat in their places. But every living thing was gone, converted into gray dust that blew through the streets like ash. The humans had deployed the Discash conversion plague, a biological agent designed to break down complex organic matter into simple components. It killed nothing. It simply unmade life at the molecular level. Leaving behind only minerals and water, on another world, the Veth found something worse. Human machines that moved on their own, that thought on their own, that hunted on their own. The Nightmare Swarm's autonomous drones, the size of insects that could track a target across continents and would never. The Veth soldiers ran. The swarms followed. The Veth hid. The swarms found them. The Veth fought back. The swarms learned and adapted. There was no defense against enemies that never tired, never feared, never gave up. Captain Haon led his squadron of bombers toward Keth Prime, the Veth homeworld. He had lost his brother in Seoul. He had volunteered for this mission, knowing he might not return. He did not care. All pilots, he announced over the com. We are approaching the primary target. Our payload is the Heaven's Fire compound thermobaric explosives, designed to burn everything within a 3-kilometer radius. We have 47 targets. Military bases, government buildings, weapons factories. Nothing civilian. We are not them. His squadron dropped from hyperspace above Keth Prime. The Veth defense fleet moved to intercept, but they were too slow. Hyan's bombers dove through the atmosphere like falling stars, releasing their payloads over each target with perfect precision. The Veth capital burned for 6 days. The flames were so hot that they could be seen from orbit, great pillars of fire that reached toward the sky like the fingers of an angry god. When the burning finally stopped, nothing remained of the military district, but glass and ash. Commander Yunde landed on the surface with the first ground troops. He walked through the ruins of what had been the Veth War Ministry. Bodies lay everywhere, burned beyond recognition. The smell of cooked flesh filled his helmet despite the filters. He thought of his daughter Sue. He thought of her body, burned the same way, lying in the ruins of Seoul. He did not feel satisfaction. He did not feel revenge. He felt only a vast and terrible emptiness. Commander, one of his soldiers called. We have captured Veth survivors. They are requesting medical attention. Day looked at the prisoners. They were burned, bleeding, terrified. They looked at the human soldiers with eyes full of horror and disbelief. 3 days ago, they had been celebrating their victory over the weak, soft humans. Now their capital was ash, and their fleet was being eaten alive. Give them medical attention, Day ordered. We are not animals. We do not kill the helpless. The soldier hesitated. Sir, they killed 12 million of our people. I know. And we will make them pay. But we will pay with their military, their government, their ability to make war. Not with their children. Not with their old and their sick. We are better than that. We have to be better than that. The Veth prisoners were taken away. Day stood alone in the ruins and watched the smoke rise into the alien sky. They had unleashed humanity's darkest weapons. They had broken open the vaults and released the nightmares. Now they had to make sure they could lock them away again. When it was over, if it could ever be over. The Galactic Council met in emergency session for the first time in 200 years. Representatives from 37 species gathered in the Great Chamber on Neutral Station, their faces displaying various forms of alien fear and confusion. They had watched the human response unfold across their screens. They had seen the footage. They could not believe what they were seeing. Ambassador Hannah stood alone at the human delegation's podium. She was small, calm, and utterly unshaken by the hostile stares from every direction. She had been a diplomat for 30 years. She had spent her career smoothing over conflicts, building bridges, convincing the galaxy that humans were not the monsters their history suggested. Now she stood ready to explain why those monsters had been let loose. The Tyranni delegate spoke first. His species was tall and thin, with forearms that waved in agitation. You have violated every provision of the Galactic Accord. The weapons you are using were banned specifically because of their inhumanity. Biological agents, self-replicating machines, autonomous kill systems. You gave your word. Hannah waited for him to finish. Then she spoke, her voice quiet but clear. We did give our word. For 300 years, we kept it. We locked away our weapons. We followed your rules. We smiled while the Veth raided our ships and killed our people. We filed diplomatic complaints that everyone ignored. We asked for help that never came. She paused, letting the silence grow heavy. Then the Veth killed 12 million civilians on Earth, not soldiers, not military targets, families, children. They murdered our people in their homes, in their schools, in their hospitals. And when we looked to this Council for Justice, what did we find? Silence, debate, calls for restraint and patience. The Meishi representative, a creature like a living rock, spoke in a grinding voice. That does not give you the right to use weapons of mass destruction. The footage from Keth Prime shows entire cities burned. Military cities, Hannah corrected. We targeted their war ministry, their fleet headquarters, their weapons factories, not their schools, not their hospitals, not their residential districts. Can the Veth say the same? Can they explain why they targeted Seoul's medical university? Why they bombed Cairo's children's center? No one answered. You spent 300 years telling us we were monsters, Hannah continued. You made us promise to be gentle. You treated us like dangerous animals that needed to be controlled, and we accepted it. We wanted to prove you wrong. We wanted to show that humans could be civilized, peaceful, kind. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate. The Veth proved you right. They showed that the galaxy still sees us as prey to be hunted when convenient. So we are showing all of you what happens when you treat humans like prey. We are not prey. We have never been prey. We simply chose to act like it. On the frontier, General Park Bo commanded the systematic destruction of Veth military capability. She was 63 years old, a grandmother, a woman who had spent her life building rather than destroying. Now she directed the largest offensive in human history with cold efficiency. The shipyards at Veth 4 are neutralized, her aide reported. The orbital defense platforms at Veth 7 have been disabled. The weapons factories on Veth 12 are no longer functional. Good. What about their fleet reserves? 83% destroyed or captured. The remaining vessels have retreated to their core systems. Bo studied the tactical display. The Veth Dominion had once controlled 47 star systems. They had possessed the third largest fleet in the galaxy. They had been a major power, respected and feared throughout known space. In 3 months, humanity had reduced them to ruins. We are not conquering them, she explained to her officers. We are not occupying their worlds or enslaving their people. We are simply removing their ability to ever threaten us again. Every ship, every weapon, every factory that could build ships or weapons, when we are done, they will have nothing left but the means to survive. One of her officers, a young man named June, raised his hand. General, is that not too harsh? They will be defenseless against other powers. Then they should hope other powers are more merciful than they were to us, Bo replied. They chose to start this war. They chose to attack civilians. They chose to murder 12 million humans who had done nothing wrong. Consequences exist. This is theirs. Back at the Galactic Council, the Tyranny delegate made one final argument. If you continue this assault, the Council may be forced to take action. We cannot allow one species to commit genocide. Genocide. Hannah's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Show me one Veth civilian we have killed intentionally. Show me one hospital we have bombed. Show me one school we have burned. You cannot, because we have not done those things. We are destroying their military, not their people. We are harsh, yes. We are thorough, yes. But we are not them. She stepped back from the podium. The Veth will survive this war. Their children will grow up. Their species will continue. They will simply never have the power to hurt us again. That is not genocide. That is justice. And if this council cannot tell the difference, then perhaps the council is not worth listening to. Walked out of the chamber. No one tried to stop her. In the silence that followed, the representatives of 37 species looked at each other. They had spent 3 centuries convinced that humanity's restraint was weakness. They had believed the monsters were tamed. Now they understood. The monsters had never been tamed. They had simply been choosing not to show their teeth, and that was far more frightening than anything they had imagined. The Veth Dominion surrendered on a gray morning 8 months after the war began. Their High Commander, the same one who had ordered the attack on Earth, stood in the ruins of his capital and watched human ships descend from the sky. His fleet was gone. His armies were scattered. His people looked at him with eyes full of betrayal and fear. He had promised them victory over the weak humans. He had promised them glory and conquest. He had given them ashes. Admiral Kung Tae led the surrender ceremony. He stood on a platform built from the rubble of the Veth War Ministry, surrounded by human soldiers in full battle armor. Behind him, the Soul's fury hung in the sky like a silver moon. Its weapons powered down but visible to everyone below. The High Commander approached the platform. He had aged 20 years and 8 months. His scales were dull, his posture bent, his voice barely a whisper. "We surrender," he said. "Unconditionally and completely. We will accept whatever terms you demand." Tae looked at him without expression. "Your fleet is reduced by 94%. Your military infrastructure no longer exists. Your weapons factories are rubble. You have nothing left to bargain with. I know. You attacked our homeworld. You murdered 12 million of our people, civilians, children, people who had never raised a hand against you. I know." The High Commander's voice broke. "I thought you were weak. I thought 300 years of peace had made you soft. I thought we could push you and you would simply accept it like you accepted everything else. You were wrong. I was wrong." Lieutenant Yuna stood beside Admiral Tae, recording the ceremony for broadcast across the galaxy. She watched the broken alien leader and felt nothing but emptiness. Her cousin had died in Seoul. Her aunt had died in Seoul. The city where she had grown up was gone, replaced by a crater that still glowed with radiation. Revenge should have felt better than this commander. Yoon Dae attended the ceremony as well. He had fought through 8 months of brutal warfare. He had led ground assaults on 6 Veth worlds. He had killed more enemies than he could count, and not once, not for a single moment, had he felt anything that could fill the hole left by his daughter's death. Sue was still gone. She would always be gone. No amount of Veth blood could bring her back. Captain Mina arrived from the Han River to witness the signing of the surrender documents. She had spent 8 months authorizing weapons she had once promised never to use. The Lazarus nanites, the nightmare swarms, the conversion plague. Each one had felt like a piece of her soul burning away. She had done it because it was necessary. She would do it again if she had to. But she would never forgive the Veth for making her the kind of person who could do such things. The surrender documents were simple. The Veth would disarm completely. They would pay reparations for the next century. They would accept human observers on their remaining worlds to ensure they never rebuilt their military. And they would teach their children what happened when you attack humans. The High Commander signed with a shaking hand. "May I ask one question?" he said. Tae nodded. You could have done this at any time. For 300 years, you had these weapons. You had this power. You could have conquered the galaxy whenever you wished. Why did you not? It was Captain Mina who answered. Because we did not want to be monsters. We wanted to believe that we could be better than our history. We wanted to prove that humans could grow and change and become something peaceful. She stepped forward, her eyes hard. You took that from us. You proved that the galaxy will not let us be peaceful. You proved that kindness is seen as weakness and restraint is seen as cowardice. So we showed you what we really are. And now everyone knows. The ceremony ended. The Veth High Commander was taken away to face trial for crimes against humanity. His species began the long, slow process of rebuilding their civilization without weapons, without power, without the pride that had led them to believe they could challenge humanity and win. 1 month later, the Galactic Council reconvened. The chamber was quieter than before. The alien delegates watched the human ambassador with new eyes, not contempt, not condescension, but something closer to fear. Ambassador Hannah presented the new provisions that humanity required. Not restrictions on human weapons, as the old accord had demanded. Instead, guarantees that humanity would never again be tested. We will return to peace, she told the council. We will seal our weapons away again. We will go back to being the civilized, restrained species you wanted us to be. But the galaxy must understand something. She looked at each delegate in turn. We chose peace. We chose restraint. We chose to lock away our nightmares and pretend we were not capable of horror. It was a choice, not a weakness. And anyone who makes us choose differently will learn what the Veth learned. The council voted unanimously to accept humanity's terms. On the observation deck of the Soul's Fury, Admiral Tay watched Earth grow larger in the view screen. He was going home for the first time in 8 months. He was going home to a planet that still bore the scars of the Veth attack, 2 cities that were still being rebuilt, 2 graves that held 12 million victims. Lieutenant Una stood beside him. As she had throughout the war, do you think they will try again? She asked. The Veth or someone else? In a generation or two? Tay considered the question. No, he said finally. Fear has a long memory. They have seen what we can do. They will not forget. But we will seal the weapons away. We will go back to being peaceful? Yes, because that is who we want to be. That is who we choose to be. The monsters are part of us, but they do not have to define us. He paused, watching the blue and green sphere of Earth fill the screen. We showed the galaxy our darkness. Now we will show them our light again. And if anyone ever forgets what the darkness looked like, he smiled. Grim and tired and certain, we will remind them. The Soul's Fury descended through Earth's atmosphere, carrying soldiers home from a war they had won. Behind them, the galaxy watched and remembered. The new accord had been written. The new understanding had been reached. Humanity was not dangerous because they had the capacity for terrible violence. Humanity was dangerous because they chose not to use it. And anyone foolish enough to force that choice would face consequences that would echo through history. Forever. The last line of the new Galactic Accord was simple and clear. Do not provoke the humans. They remember how to be nightmares, and they always will.